Hello, Rob Roos. Thanks for answering this joint interview between Essentiel News and BAM. Let me introduce you very quickly. You're very well known for being the former member of the European Parliament who cornered the Pfizer representative into admitting that the vaccines were never tested against transmission.
Was the Pfizer COVID vaccine tested on stopping the transmission of the virus before it entered the market?
Did we know about stopping immunisation before it's entered the market? No.
Today, you are one of the plaintiffs in the trial against Ursula von der Leyen. Could you tell us why?
Well, this was for me the only possibility to get the transparency. When I was a member of the European Parliament, I asked Ursula von der Leyen questions in the plenary. The problem was that Mrs. von der Leyen, after the first round of questions, and that is only the presidents of the political groups, then she disappeared. She was never interested in listening to, let's say, ordinary members of parliament. But we are representatives of the people, so she just ignored the people. It's complete arrogant to behave like that. And it was not a one-time occurrence. It was time and again that had happened. So I also asked urgent written questions about these text messages, because this is about $71 billion of taxpayers' money. People have the right to know how this is spent. So I asked urgent written questions, which should be answered within 3 weeks. It took me more than 8 months to receive something like a non-answer. My questions was completely dodged, and my concerns were just disabled. It was I never received a real answer. Besides that, I tried something else. I was on behalf of the Conservatives in the European Parliament. I was the coordinator of the COVID committee on behalf of the ECR. As a coordinator, we had special meetings to determine what the agenda will be for the next meetings. I was able to invite Mrs. von der Leyen in our special COVID committee for a hearing. Twice she refused an official request. Twice. Not once, but twice.
She had the right to refuse?
Well, I don't know, but she just didn't come. And this is not, she is the head of the Commission, and it's a powerful position, but she's not elected. So she is appointed and then approved by the Parliament. There is a misunderstanding often that she is elected by the Parliament. That's not the case. She is appointed and approved by the Parliament. So she is not a representative of the people. Behavior like this is really arrogant and is not in favor of the people. It's in favor of the institutions. It's maybe in favor of herself. We do not know what she texted, but her husband was involved in the same business as Pfizer. So maybe it's about that. We do not know. We have the right to know, because 71 billion euros is taxpayers' money. So this is for me very important. As a member of the European Parliament, I did everything in my power to receive this transparency, and I was not able to do it. The Commission just laughed about the things we are doing as members of Parliament, and it's our primary task to ask critical questions and to have oversight over this Commission, but they completely ignore it. And this is for me the only way to, it's the last way to fight for transparency, and I hope I hope that the judge will understand that the legal system will be there to protect the people.
You had several colleagues who supported your, claims or, for transparency. You worked, I remember there was Michel Rivasi in France, other colleagues. What happened to them? Is there, where did it all go? Is there still an effort in the EU Parliament now? Are those people still in place?
I know that Christian Andersen is there. Christian Terrace was there. I'm not a member of the European Parliament anymore because I was asking for the truth. I was fighting for the truth and I was fighting for freedom and defend human rights. And that is very difficult because in politics it's really an ugly system. Even in my own political party at the time, they said, Rob, there is no political advantage to do that. And I said, but it's not about political advantage. I was chosen by the people to represent them and I will fight for their human rights. But this is how politics works. Once people are chosen to be a representative of the people, they come in their place and they start they start the group think. You have to be part of the system because otherwise you don't get you will not be a coordinator, you will not be a vice president, or you will not be on the list, and so that you can run for office again. But this is what happened to me. My own political colleagues in my own party, they were so angry with me because of asking questions about fighting for human rights, and this is how it works. So let's say the freedom fighters, the people who are really fighting for the people, they work them out of the system, and this is also what happened to me. So to be honest, I do not know how Michel Rivasi. It was very nice because I'm a conservative and she was a very progressive, but we had some common ground on this. So we fought together, and this is how politics should work. It's not about how you think. This is the things that we believe in. We have that in common. Let's fight together, and that was very good. But also, Rivasi was cancelled because he was speaking to me. I was a conservative and extreme. They use all the words, and.
Let me reframe.
Yeah.
You said you didn't pursue re-election because you were disavowed by your own party?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. They finally I stepped out, but they would never give me a decent place on the list. Yeah, so that's how it works.
How is it possible that companies such as Pfizer can have so much power within the European Union? What is your experience about that? They seem to be above the law.
Well, this is about globalism. This is about globalism. It is not only Pfizer, it's the corporates. And what you see is that the European Union is making so much law that small companies, medium-sized and small companies cannot keep up with all this legislation. So they are really destroying our middle class and middle-sized companies. And all these corporates, they come up with, we should do this, we should do that, because they know they are the only ones that it's making their business even bigger. And this is how it works. They come with their chauffeured cars, and they go to the highest floor of the European Commission building, while the small-sized and medium-sized businesses, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I know what I'm talking about. They just need to work very hard and to pay very, very much taxes and to hire all kinds of consultants to keep up with all these crazy regulations. And this is what is destroying Europe right now. So it's not only Pfizer, but it's also the big energy companies. We see the same problem with all these corporates who are in the food industry, and they are really destroying our farmers. So it is a globalist agenda, and it's not serving the people.
What do you expect from this trial?
I hope there will be justice and I hope there will be accountability because the people have the right to it. We need to repair the system and the only way to do it is via the court. And I hope this court will have the courage to do it because I understand also these are very powerful people we are fighting against. But someone has to do it, and also these judges. I hope they have the courage and they listen to the people. This is not about some text messages. This is about the rule of law of the European Union, the things that unite us.
You were in the courtroom. Did you have a feel of the power struggle?
Well, the fact that the European prosecutor comes in between is, in my opinion, ridiculous because EPPO, the European prosecutor, is only responsible for controlling the budget. And this is not about the EU budget because the member states, and Mrs. von der Leyen admitted herself when there were these debates before the European elections, there was a Spitzenkandidat debate and she was in Maastricht and she said, well, I'm not involved. This is a matter between the member states and the vaccine producers. So they directly pay the money and they together sign the contracts. So there is no role for the European prosecutor because it's not about the European budget. But the fact that Mrs. von der Leyen was texting with Bourla and maybe intervening in these negotiations, well, that makes it very suspicious. And also, Sandra Gallina, she was the head of negotiations of the European Union. When I was in the special COVID committee, she said, but we don't play by the rules. This is how we shape Europe. So that's really what she said. And she is the head of the health and food safety. She's the Director General of the health and food safety. So she has a very powerful position too. But she admitted in our hearing, in our special COVID committee, that they don't play by the rules. So if they don't their own rules. So if they don't play by the rules, it's up to me to control them. But it's very, very difficult. So now the only hope is that this judge will bring justice.
Throughout this whole case and since the beginning of the pandemic, we really have the impression that there is a constant power grab from the European Union over the member states. And now this is exactly, it's not only about the separation of powers between the judiciary and the executive power, but also between the rights, normally the competence of the member states and the European Union. So do you still, believe in the European Union? Don't you think its, role is now too big? What is your take on that?
Yes, it's definitely not representing the people anymore. There is more and more power transferred from the member states to the European Commission. And there is no real democracy. People think we have a European Parliament and these people are chosen, but if we are not able to control the Commission, then we really have a problem. Article 5 of the treaty says that it's about subsidiarity and proportionality. Even if the new legislation that you have to vote for is very good, you always have to consider, can we realize this on a national level or must we do this on a European level? Because this is what this Article 5 is about. Don't vote, even if it's a good legislation, in favor of a legislation that you can do on a national level. Because once it is once it is approved on a European level, we cannot get rid of it. And this is a very big danger. And this is how they grab power. Energy, for example, energy is something that is a competence of the member states, but now we have that 42.5% of our energy must come from renewables. That's a legislation. So it is a member's competence, but still they move forward with this legislation so they can control it. Another thing is that they always create a crisis. They create a crisis to grab more power. They create a crisis, and the only solution is we need more European Union. And we have to take it back. I think there are now strong forces. We have seen the elections in the European Parliament, but we see also the national elections. More conservative parties are chosen. They create now all kinds of what I call Frankenstein coalitions to keep them out. We see that in Austria, we see that in France, but it's everywhere. But also during the European Parliament elections, there was the Liberals and the Greens, they lost. And they are still the ones who are in power now. But it makes the people more and more angry. There will be a point that people don't accept it anymore. So I think that we can... I still believe in a cooperation on a European level, but not in the way we are doing it now. It's not serving the people, and we should always keep in mind it should serve the people.
Yeah. What do you think could be a solution?
Well, I always said that we need to go back to the basis. The European Commission should be a secretariat. The European Parliament should be demolished. I was there and I was trying to destroy my own job, because we can do it from representatives of the national parliament coming once or twice per month together for 1 or 2 days to vote over things, and then go back home to their national parliament. We don't need the European Parliament, and the European Commission has gained too much power. It should go back to as a secretariat, and the Council should have the lead.
What would be the job of the Secretariat?
Well, what the Secretary is always doing, let's say, preparing the meetings, making the minutes. Well, they can offer an advisory board, of course, something of an advisory institution, because they have smart people. But they are, now they are in power. They want to grab more power. This is, I think, a very human thing, but we have to break it.
In the United States, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was a fierce advocate also on transparency and accountability on all the COVID measures. Do you expect perhaps the changes now could have an impact on our issue here?
Yes, absolutely. I think there will be a lot of truth will come out. It already did. We have seen the hearings in the House. We saw that, for example, the side effects of the Pfizer vaccines, it's 33 pages and all kinds of side effects. And because of this hearing in the House, we now have the truth coming out. So they were really aware of the risks. But once Robert F. Kennedy is there, and there are more good names, I think the truth will come out, and because they acted exactly in the same way all over the world, it will have an impact on Europe too, because we had the same restrictions over here. The only exception was Sweden. And especially that one I wanted to have in my in the COVID committee hearings. I wanted to have this man who was responsible for the different approach, but they didn't want to hear him. So no, so they really try to hide things, and Yes, I'm sure that will have a huge impact, not only on what happened with COVID, but on all kinds of things. The climate policy is also a way to take away people's rights and to make life expensive and etc. The war in Ukraine, I think a lot of things will come out, and I hope for the good.
Do you see, Ursula von der Leyen being forced to step down?
If you make mistakes, you have to acknowledge that. Then you have to maybe apologize and you have to repair it. But if you are not willing to answer questions, then it's really wrongdoing, and you should be held accountable for that. Let's hope there will be justice and there will be accountability. And it's for me, it's really evil, and it should never happen again. So maybe a call to the people: keep speaking out. The freedom of speech is so important, and this fight against disinformation is just more censorship, and we have to avoid that.
You're completely out of politics now?
Well, yes, I don't have let's say an official role anymore, but I cannot let it go. I have to fight. There are too few people who really fight for freedom, for justice, for real democracy, because all this politicians, they are fighting for democracy. It's only their democracy. It's their rule of law. It's not. It's the democracy of the institutions, not of the people anymore. And we have to change that. Yeah. So I don't have an official role, but maybe I come back.